Welcome back on the mat. Let us start our practice in an upright seated position. So sit up tall. Just imagine that you're resting your entire spine against the wall. That way you can imagine really getting length in the entire backside of the body. Another way to think about it is by lengthening in the abdomen. If you lift in the front body, you think of lifting in the chest slightly, you'll get the same effect. Let's take the arms out to the sides, get the fingers to point away from the body, and now pull the fingers back towards the back wall. A little bit of a nerve stretch. You'll find that as you now extend in the hands, maybe a slightly burning sensation or just not a muscle stretch really. Bring the palms back to the front. Turn the hands so the palms face up to ceiling, and once again pull to the back wall and slightly down. Just actively pulling the hands in that direction to intensify the stretch. Keep shoulders away from ears. You wouldn't want to create unwanted tension in the shoulders. Bring it back to center, and now get hands into fists. Roll your fists as you slightly bend into the arms and bring it all the way in. So gentle joint work all the way to the midline, and then change rotation and roll your fists or hands or wrists out. Bring it back, rolling in. So it's gentle work, but it's really beneficial for the joints. Let's do opposite direction, rolling out until you get the arms out and straight. Reach, shoulders back and down. Bring your hands to meet in front of your body. Lightly squeeze the palms together. Reach the fingertips as far out in front as you can. And then do the opposite. Pull the shoulders back to the back wall, but keep your elbow joints straight. So reaching forwards and reaching back, or pulling back. Out in front and back. Two more out in front and back. And then last one, reaching. Pull it back. Bring the shoulders back to a neutral position and bring your hands down. Now, big circles, we work from wrists to shoulders, and then we'll take it into the neck and work it down from there. So we've got the fingers on the deltoids, on the shoulders. Big circles, you can take the elbows forwards, roll them back, up and down. So let's just get big circular motions in the shoulders in the seated position. A nice way to move on the mat is by linking breath and movement. Surely I'm doing a lot of talking, but you can use the inhale to take the arms up and over, and the exhale as you start dipping down. That will also give you a nice idea of how fast the rotations should be for your body. So link it to your breath, and now change rotation. Take your elbows up, back and down. Forwards, up, back and down. I always find that these more basic movements, especially working into the joints, it's maybe not the most exciting form of physical practice, but it's so good for the joints, and it's quite important to spend some time on these basic movements. One more rotation, and then you can bring your arms back down. Now to get to the neck, let's first do a little bit of activation or strengthening, and then we'll stretch it out. So you can place, let's grip hold of one wrist, push your forehead with the hand, but resist with the neck muscles. So create a bit of tension as you push. Then release. Take it to the one side of the head. You can just use one hand. Push and resist. You'll feel subtle activation along the one side of the neck, and take it down. Opposite side, push, resist, hold it there. let go. Final one, you can use both hands, maybe even interlacing fingers. Pull to the front, but resist. You'll find that your neck is strongest in this position. And then slowly ease out of that one. And now working into the scalene muscles a little bit, slightly front parts of the neck. You're going to place your right hand out to the side. Arm will be straight, shoulder drawn down. Take your left ear to left shoulder. There you might already feel a little bit of a stretch going down the shoulder, down the arm. Now to intensify, we'll move the head around. You can bring your chin closer to chest. And as you bring chin closer to chest, keep the chin down, start to look over your shoulder. So you're turning away from the extended arm. Slowly bring the chin back to chest and then lift your head. We'll switch. So pretty specialized what we're doing here. We bring arm out, straight arm, shoulder down. Then you take right ear to right shoulder. Remind yourself to keep the opposite shoulder heavy and drawing down towards the floor. Now we'll bring the chin closer to chest so you stretch all the way down. And once you've got the head in that position, feeling that stretch, start to look away to intensify. You'll know how far you should take it today. The stretch can be quite intense. I can feel that turning in this direction. I'm not going as far as I did on the opposite side. And that's me using my body awareness to stay within my limits. You can then slowly bring your chin first back to chest and then lifting your head up. Let's get to the ankles. We'll jump straight to the ankles. Straighten your right leg, bend the left. Use your hand and make big circles with this ankle. Just feeling into the ankle joint a little bit. You can change rotation. Now we will take the hand on top of the foot and actively pull back to lengthen out in the front part of the ankle. Slide the palm of the hand onto the toes from the top and push your toes towards your heel. So we're just flexing the toes as much as we can. You can let go, switch legs. We do opposite side. First, just rolling the ankle and using your hand. Change rotation. It's almost like we take some time to scan the entire body. Just check in with the entire body, see what it feels like. Let go. Let's place the hand on the top of the foot and start to push the foot back to lengthen in the front part of the ankle. We do a lot of dorsiflexion with the feet in yoga. Think of a downward facing dog where we work the heels down to the mat. Now push the toes towards the heels. So we usually stretch in the opposite direction. When we raise a leg and we maybe point the toes on the feet, we do get into this shape, but more dorsiflexion than not, I'd say, when it comes to stretching. Now let go. Let's make our way onto all fours. In this all fours position, we'll shift weight around. Over to the left hand, slightly forwards, rolling over to the right hand and slightly back. This is now a little bit of strengthening for the wrists. So you just keep moving. For a lot of students, it's difficult to get into that hyperextension in the wrists. So here we are moving in that direction, just with a lot of care. Let's change rotation, take it over to the opposite side. Then you bring it back into a neutral position, getting back to the spine. Exhale, tuck your chin round your back, empty your lungs. Inhale, arching your back, tilt the bum up, look up. That's an in-breath. Exhale to empty. Inhale to arch and look up. Exhale, empty. Inhale, arch and look up. Exhale, bring it back into a neutral spine. Tuck your toes, taking your hips up into a downward facing dog. Now bend your knees, look up. On in-breath, position your feet between hands. You can step or walk, halfway lift. Exhale, forward bend. Inhale, take your arms to ceiling. Exhale, mountain pose. Get your feet together. Place your hands onto your thighs as you bend into your knees and squat down. As you do so, make sure you can still see your toes. Place your hands onto your waist. Just see that the hips are square right now. We will be twisting to the right, but you don't want the hips to sway around. So keep the hips fixed in this position. Get your left elbow over your right knee, hands to prayer. And as you push into the right knee, look over the top shoulder, but once again, keep the hips square. Now think about exposing your chest to the right side of the room or studio. You want to pull the left shoulder towards the right side. That's where you get a bit of a spinal twist. Now, if you think your spine is flexing a bit, rounding a bit, arch in the back and get more length. Inhale, bring it back to center. Exhale, right elbow over the left knee, hips in line, start to push into the knee, arching in the back and twisting. Knees are aligned. You don't get the one knee to pop out in front of the other. And I'll bring it back to center. Exhale, well-deserved forward bend. In-breath, halfway lift. Plant your hands. Exhale, step back. Place your knees onto the mat. We once again work into the shoulders. So the rotation is going to look like it's coming from the elbows when we turn the elbows out and then the elbows back. But it's all happening in the shoulder joint, really. So keep your arms fixed, keep them straight. We keep the knees on the mat to make it easier. Get the elbows to point out to the sides as much as you can. And then do the opposite. Tuck the elbows. Your elbows will point back. Keep moving so you can point back and out to the sides, almost slightly forwards and back. Just keep rolling through the shoulders. Two more. Eventually you can do this in a plank position, then bring it back to a neutral position. Strengthening the hands a little bit, get onto the fingertips. Shift weight back at first. So my shoulders are not in line with the hands at the moment. Then feel into the fingertips, get some more weight onto the fingers and more and more. And maybe you get the shoulders stacked above the hands as you hold this position. It helps to pull with the index, middle, ring fingers towards the back of the mat and with the thumbs to the top of the mat to sort of imagine that you're gripping something that's going to give you better activation in the hands and you should be able to hold it a bit longer. If it's quite intense, you shift weight back and you ease into this one. You can bring your palms back down onto the mat. It should feel quite nice to get the palms flat on the floor. Spread your fingers, grip the mat, tuck toes, take it back into a downward facing dog position. Bending into knees and look up. Use the inhale to step your feet behind your hands with your toes slightly out to the sides. Now start to squat down. The idea is to not get the heels to lift off the mat. So if you struggle to get into Malasana, keeping heels on the floor, then I'd suggest that you lift in the bum, keep your fingers on the floor, and stay in this shape. If you get into Malasana with hands to prayer, by all means, stay there. I'll get into the previous position in case you struggle to go all the way down. So we're just holding it. And here we are working into the ankle joints, we're working into the knee joints, even getting the lower back muscles to work quite a lot to maintain the shape. Now position hands onto the mat. Slowly start to straighten your legs, keeping the feet externally rotated as we take it into a bit of a forward bend. You can relax the crown of the head down. Inhale for halfway lift. Plant your hands on exhale and step back carefully into a plank, taking your hips up into downward facing dog. Time for a lunge. Inhale, take right leg up. Exhale, position right foot in between hands. And bring your back knee down. Keep your fingers on the floor. What we'll do is shift more weight forwards, stretching a bit deeper, and then shifting a little bit of weight back. You don't have to straighten the front leg. We're just shifting weight forwards and slightly back. It's more about getting the stretch moving forwards than it is about pushing the body back. We're just sort of backing out of the deep stretch, and then we get back into it. Back, just 2 more, down, 1 more. And then you hold it in that position. Stretch it out, option of staying right here, or option of getting hands onto your knee and pushing up to get the chest up. Eventually, we want to work towards straightening the back leg with the top of the back foot being on the floor. That way we once again getting into the ankle in that plantar flexion direction that we don't use too often on the mat. Apart from an up dog, let's place the knee back down. Bring your hands down, tuck toes, straighten your back leg, step it back into a downward facing dog position. Inhale, raise your left leg. Exhale, position left foot in between hands. Keep your hands on the mat as you place the back knee down, top of the back foot onto the floor. You might want to be on the fingertips, but you're shifting weight back, and then you're pushing forwards. Slightly back and down. Keep going. Just a little bit of movement before we're going to hold still in this position. Shifting weight forwards and back. 2 more. Weight back. And forwards, last one. Back. Now this time round as you come down, hold this position. Feel that you get a nice stretch. Then you have the option to place both hands onto your front knee and lifting your chest. The final phase can maybe be a bit intense, but straightening the back leg with the top of the back foot still firmly on the mat. You can slowly bring the knee down. If the knee was floating off the mat, hands to mat, tuck toes, straighten your back leg, stepping it back into a downward facing dog. Slowly lower your hips and place your knees onto the mat. We'll be working into the hip joints for a second. So you can get into a seated position, get your right knee at the bottom, step the left leg over. Get your right arm in front of the left shin, and then place your elbow onto the bottom knee. Wrap your leg or arms around the leg, squeezing your leg into your body, looking over the top shoulder. So here we get into the posterior hip capsule. If you feel as if you can go a little bit deeper, maybe you can reach to get the tricep onto the bottom knee. Hugging the knee in a little bit more and twisting a bit more. Slowly making your way up. As you come up, we'll switch. Got a few more hip mobility things to do. Let's switch legs, arms, placing the tricep onto the bottom knee, wrapping arms around the top leg, looking over the top shoulder. You'll find that as you put weight into the foot that's pushing into the floor, it might allow you to lean forwards a bit more and to twist a little bit more. Another 15 seconds. You can use the inhale to come back up. And we'll get into a bit of a hip opener, frog pose, before we combine a bit of balancing with hip mobility work. So part your knees, get the feet in line with the knees. You wouldn't want the legs to straighten out more, feet closer together. It's not a train smash if it's not entirely aligned. It's just going to make it a little bit easier or better for alignment purposes. You walk the knees apart, get onto the forearms. In this position, you'll find that shifting a bit of weight back is going to get you deeper into a stretch. We hold this for a little while before we get to a bit of balancing. You might find that the longer you hold it, the deeper you can go. So if you think you can slide a bit deeper, maybe get one thumb just on the inside of a knee and scoot the knee up a little bit to go a tiny bit deeper. Only if you feel that you can stretch a bit deeper and your body needs a deeper stretch. But body awareness is what we want. You don't want to overstretch or overdo any posture on the mat. Yoga is all about keeping the body healthy and healing the body. It's not the place to push yourself into injury. Another 30 seconds or so. It's always good to keep the feet flexed when we do a stretch like this. It's just better protection for the knee joints, getting some muscle activation as opposed to a very, very passive or relaxed position. It's time to get out of this one, so you'll first come up onto the hands, then bring the feet together or closer together and walk the knees closer together. You can then position yourself back into a downward facing dog. So down dog, hands on the mat, step it back, walk your down dog out. It should feel quite nice after the bit of hip opening. And bending into knees, look up. In breath, feet in between hands, halfway lift. Exhale, forward bend. In breath, take arms to ceiling. Exhale, mountain pose. All right, so we're going to be balancing on one leg. We're going to be moving while we're balancing on one leg. So place hands onto waist for stability. Pull your right knee up. We're going to make big circles clockwise as you balance on the left foot. Right foot is flexed. You're taking the knee up, out to the side. Lower the knee. Let it cross over the midline and keep rotating. Now change rotation. Take it in the opposite direction. Two more. Bring your right foot down. Take your left knee up. We'll first move an outward direction with the knee. Big circles, crossing over the midline and taking the knee out to the side. Now change rotation, take it in the opposite direction, inwards, clockwise. Two more. And then bring your leg down. Get your feet mat width apart. Now with this forward bend, don't worry about keeping length in the spine or rounding in the spine. Just allow the body to do what it wants as you move into the forward bend. If you don't get the hands to make contact with the mat, then you can bend into your knees, but get the fingers to point towards one another, the tops of the hands to push into the mat, and we just hold that position. So you're applying light pressure onto the hands to get the hands into extreme flexion. This is us trying to make the most of this forward bend by getting into the wrist joints. And then you can place normal down dog hands on the mat. Use an exhale to step it back into a downward facing dog. From our down dog, we'll move to a seated position. So bend knees, look up, and then get into a seated position. Now we're going to get onto our backs. So you can slowly curl down, relaxing onto the mat. As you do so, bring your knees into your chest. We'll straighten the spine out. So first hug knees in, and then you'll get your hands onto your knees and work your knees away from your chest. And as you pull knees away from chest, you'll just find that the arms are straight and you've got a straight spine on the mat. Now tuck your chin, bring it close to chest, then get length in your neck and place your head back down onto the floor. Now pull the knees in slightly. Drop your knees over to the left, arms out to the sides, your gaze in the opposite direction. Should you want to get more out of the spinal twist, you can place your left hand onto the top knee and adjust the knee closer to the floor. Bring it back to a neutral position. Take your knees over to the right, gaze to the left. And should you want to get more out of the spinal twist, place the right hand on the top knee and actively pull it down closer to the floor. Inhale. Bring your knees back to center. You can step feet onto the mat and then drop your knees out to the sides into a Supta Baddha Konasana. But as you get into this one, this is our very last posture, a subtle opening in the hips. Instead of keeping the legs still, just move your legs up and down. You don't have to move them too much, but just a little bit of movement. Now just let the knees go heavy. You can stop with the movement. Just feel the knees pulling closer to the floor. Placing the hands onto the outsides of the legs. Bring your knees back together. Straighten your legs. It is time for corpse pose. Allow the body to relax completely. Close your eyes. And for the first time in the practice, allow the breath to be natural. But just close your eyes and relax.